Hi there, welcome to Project Gaming. My name's Chris, aka Project Neo, and on this series we'll be looking at the history of some of gaming's classic franchises. I'll be concentrating on series that are available on PC, games that can still be found and played today, whether that be on something like Steam or Uplay, or emulated on abandonware sites. Today, we'll be continuing our look at one of the keystones of the CRPG genre, the Might and Magic series. The success of the first game allowed John Van Caneghem to hire on additional programmers and artists and turn New World Computing into a real studio. They immediately began work on a sequel to Might and Magic Book 1. It would be called Might and Magic Book 2, Gates to Another World. Released in 1988 for the Apple II, it was soon ported to DOS, Amiga, Commodore 64, and would later be ported to the Sega Genesis in 1991 and Super Famicom in 1993. While a Super Nintendo version was also in the works, it would never be released in the United States. A number of publishers worked on ports for Book 2. The Genesis version of the game was ported by Electronic Arts in the US and in Japan. The Super Famicom version was ported by an obscure Japanese company called LOZCG Amusements. There isn't a whole lot of information about them other than that they existed, and may have worked on a few other games like Guri Suzuki F1 Super Driving and Final Stretch, two racing games that don't appear to have ever left Japan. There was another publisher in Japan, StarCraft Inc., who worked on the NEC and MSX versions, though not much information is available about them online due to the fact they seem to have disappeared in the mid-90s, as well as the fact that Blizzard's StarCraft is so popular, though it looks like they ported a number of RPGs to the Japanese market. In Europe, the game was published by Elite Systems, who are apparently still around, pushing a mini ZX Spectrum and crappy old cell phone games today. Seriously, go to their website, they have candy bar style phones on it. The graphics are greatly improved over the previous title. There's more color, more animation, and just more character to the world. And I feel that's the theme for this game. More. Book 2 takes all the good things of Book 1 and adds more good stuff. The world is bigger, the battles are bigger. Hell, even your weapons are bigger. I'm sure every gamer knows the power of a +4 longsword, but how about a +40 Vorpal blade? That just sounds brutal. And while we're on the subject of more, the battles. Holy crap, the battles. You could face up to 255 enemies in a single fight. Yeah, you heard me, 255 enemies against a 6 to 8 man party. What is this, Sparta? Aside from improved graphics and larger scale battles, another major change in Book 2 is the party extending from 6 to 8 members. However, those additional 2 members are considered hirelings. This means they have to be paid to join the team, and they take a cut of all the loot the party brings in. Gates to Another World also introduced 2 new classes, the Archer and the Barbarian. It also introduced other skills such as burglary and linguistics. Now, all of that was fine, but the most important improvement was the addition of the cartography skill. Once you trained one of your PCs in this skill, they would automatically make maps of the world. No more graph paper. The story picks up immediately after the end of Book 1. The party, which can be transferred over from the previous game, has just passed through the gates to another world from Varn to Kron, chasing the villainous Sheltem. Kron, which stands for Central Research Observation Nacelle, contains the controls for various Varns on the massive world ship, including Varn 4 from the previous game. Now, the party must travel through the elemental realms, and even through time itself, to learn the history and purpose of the world, and to keep Sheltem from hurling the Kron and its associated Varns into the sun. Sheltem, it turns out, was a corrupted guardian of the planet Terra. Korak, another guardian, had been dispatched by the Ancients to stop him from destroying Kron. In the end, instead of fighting Sheltem to save the world, the players are tasked with solving a puzzle to steer Kron away from the sun. Once they solve the cryptogram, which is a reference to the preamble of the US Constitution, they are told that the world they saved was created by the Ancients, and the people of this world will go on to populate the world of Terra. This also sets up the events of the next game, which would take place on the planet Terra. While Book 2 is considered a technical improvement over the first game, some reviewers took issue with the game's lackluster story and increased emphasis on combat. Some reviewers felt the game seemed bloated, with characters being able to reach level 255, have tens of thousands of hit points, and wield incredible +50 longswords while fighting hundreds of monsters at a time. It just felt excessive. One reviewer in particular, Scorpia of Computer Gaming World, garnered the wrath of series creator John Van Canegum. She was particularly annoyed by the ending, where instead of a boss fight, the player was given 15 minutes to solve a cryptogram. He responded with an angry editorial in the magazine and would later create a monster named Scorpia in Might and Magic 3. Something the game was praised for, though not by Scorpia, was some of the tongue-in-cheek humor and references. Hirelings named H.K. Fooey, Friar Fly, and Mr. Wizard are just a few examples. They also praised the graphics and scope of the game. This was a game that could take hundreds of hours to fully explore. Players definitely got their money's worth. My experience with the game is largely similar to my experience with Book 1. Gates to Another World still drops the party into a world unprepared for the coming journey. At least this time, the Ghost of Korak gives you an idea of what you have to do. However, the beginning is still brutally difficult, and the systems are archaic to a modern gamer. Hell, you can only save your game in an inn, and there are only 5 of those in the game. That's a recipe for a lot of lost hours if the party is deep in a dungeon and can't get out because of the random battles. Might and Magic Book 2 is something of a learning experience for John Van Canegum and the folks at New World Computing. This was really the first game developed by the studio, since Book 1 was primarily developed by John himself. Might and Magic Book 2 should serve as a lesson for developers to understand what works and what doesn't in the game. In fact, it might be one of the first games to ever have to deal with feature bloat. I liken Gates to Another World to a mature MMO, where there is so much interesting stuff going on that it can be hard to focus on what you actually want to do. Now, that doesn't make a game bad. It just means that sometimes you have to work a little bit to get down to what's really good. So, thanks for watching this episode of Project Gaming. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and comment below. I always love talking classic gaming with folks. And don't forget to check out our next episode, where we'll be talking about a new era in the Might and Magic franchise, Might and Magic 3, Isles of Terra.